Bloomberg Business.
Welcome. You're watching Bloomberg Queen right here on the promenade, right outside the Congress Center where the World Economic Forum is underway. It's day one today. Now, in the run-up to the WEF's annual meeting, you heard us talk to you about a PwC landmark CEO confidence survey that PwC does every year with regards to CEO confidence. This year, they found the levels of pessimism amongst global leaders on the rise. But we have an outlier right here with us, Sajjan Jindal of JSW Group, who believes that his optimism levels have remained unchanged over the last 3 years. Mr. Jindal, thank you so much for speaking to us here at Bloomberg Queen. I went back and looked at the 2 interviews that we did in Davos over the last 2 years, and in both you came off sounding very aggressive of growth and very confident of being able to expand your business, both from a capacity point of view, a profitability point of view, and I'm not just talking steel, I'm also talking cement and some of the allied investments that you've made. Do you feel that level of optimism maintained this year?
You know, if you talk about India, the level of optimism remains the same. I mean, India, what is very important is that when you grow aggressively, you don't not necessarily over leverage yourself. And that's what has happened with most companies or most groups, that they, in their desire to grow very fast, very rapidly, they have taken too much debt, and that's been their nemesis. So therefore, we have always tread on a very conservative path as far as raising debt is concerned. But we have grown mostly from our internal accruals, and we have retained our debt at a very normal level, which can be serviced with a 1 year or 1.5 years cash flow. That's been our strategy, and that's worked extremely well for us. But when you talk about the mood here, which is a global kind of a situation because you have global leaders here, obviously what is happening in the world is something which is very different from what is happening in India. I mean, there is trade war between US and China. There is European Union, which is struggling. Every country Brexit, and in France you are having so many issues. Italy is in a huge negative growth rate. So if you look at the world, it's a very somber in their mood. But India, in spite of the election year that we are entering into the elections, still remains, in my opinion, a place to be in. And because India has only one way to go, and that's only going up. Okay,
fair enough. I'm going to put a few political questions to you, but I'll save the best for the last, as they say. Let's talk a little bit about growth. Over the last 2 years, we've spent quite a bit of time talking about some of the businesses that you were keen to target through the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, right? You did get Monet, but some of the larger businesses, it didn't look like you were maybe in pole position. Now it does seem like the game's turned towards you when it comes to Bhushan Power and Steel. I think tribunal after tribunal decision has made clear that value maximization is what they're going to look at. And so, even though there's a question of timeline in your case, since yours is the higher bid, it looks like you might be in pole position. Have I understood this correctly? When will you have a final decision on this?
So we don't know when the final decision will come, but it's most likely it's swinging in our favor because we are the highest bidder, and they have been very vocal. The judiciary has been very vocal that the maximization of value is the first principle of IBC. So therefore, it seems like that we might get Bhushan Power and Steel.
It seems like, but you still don't have any idea of what
we have no idea, no, because it's taken.
This case is dragged on for
it's
a really
going
long
on.
time,
I mean, both Bhushan Power and Steel and SR, both have been dragging, and it's very disheartening to see that the businesses are going on, because it is affecting us in our business, in the steel business, because both these plants are not paying any interest and to the banks and stuff like that. So they have no real financial cost.
Correct.
So they are just running and sort of ruining the markets.
Interesting. You mentioned SR Steel.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to bring the value maximization mantra back here. In that case, the erstwhile promoter believes that because his offer is better than the offer put in there by the winning bidder, who has been through 95% of the process over a long period of time, his offer should be given a fair chance to succeed. You have been on the bidding side of most of these cases. You agree with the Ruya analogy?
So again, going back to the way because it's a new reform that the government has done.
Right.
The IBC, the whole law is new and whole process is new, so it is going through its iterating process, and what is right and what is not right is very difficult to say.
What do you think should be the case? You were, at one time, you stayed out of the bidding, then you sort of walked in, then you were at one time very excited to be part of the fray for SR Steel. It's gone to ArcelorMittal in the bidding process, but the Ruyas believe their offer should be given a chance.
No, so my belief is that, I'm a little bit, you could say, biased, because we still have some interest in the SR Steel. But the point is that it will be very difficult for any judicial system or any banking government system to say or to overlook 12,000 crore rupees of public money which is coming into the public, and you say no because you have not followed the process properly, or you do not qualify because of section 12A or 29A or whatever. So therefore it will be very difficult to say that 12,000 crore is not a big deal, and the highest bidder is ArcelorMittal and should be given. So we have to see. I don't have an answer.
Mr. Jindal, for a man who has always given me straight answers, you've evaded this one beautifully.
No, I'm not evading it.
Just tell me whether you, in your personal belief, having been a bidder in many of these situations, and potentially being a bidder in many more future situations, do you believe the promoter, if the promoter is willing to come to the table now, finally, after the process is almost over, with a chance to settle, if his or her offer is higher than the winning bidders, he or she should be given a chance? Should be given. So you're effectively saying the Ruya should get a chance.
Should get it. Absolutely. It is their company.
Doesn't matter that
if they are paying 100% of the money, so why not?
They had a chance to do it all this time. They didn't.
The process is not over till it's over. It's not over yet. So, and the promoters are saying that I'm willing to pay every dime, then why not? What's wrong? What's wrong in that? If they are paying everything, if they are not, they've done nothing wrong. I mean, what's it called? The audit, they have not been found guilty of doing anything.
Forensic
audit,
fraudulent behavior.
Correct. So then what's the harm?
So if you were in ArcelorMittal's shoes, would you say the same thing?
No, I would say the same thing.
You would say that their offer is better than mine? Doesn't matter that I've taken a year and a half to go through this process? Give them the asset back?
No, but the point is that, for example, we and Tata Steel were bidding for Bhushan Steel and Power, Bhushan Steel, and they bid higher than us. We never went to the court. We never did anything. We said no, they bid higher than us, and let them take it.
That's a very different situation from what 29A has created.
I know.
29A has created a situation where erstwhile promoters are not allowed to participate.
Yeah, but there is a big question mark on even 29A today. In today's times. So, I've been a proponent of 29A. In fact, I've been tweeting about it, and before this thing came in, that a promoter who has ruined the company, for example, and so he cannot be allowed, because globally they are allowed to participate.
Yes.
And they can buy it as the highest bidder. But in case of India, I said India is a different country, and here if we allow that, then we are not learning from the mistakes. The promoters are not learning from the mistakes, and they will get the asset at 1/3 the price, and which is not fair to the
which is
competing.
Exactly the view that the government took as well, and policymakers took as well.
Yeah. So here, what I'm saying is that if the promoter is paying 100%, then why should they not be allowed?
That's
even if they have gotten delayed, but because the process is still not over, it's still going on. For example, in Bhushan Power and Steel, where we are the highest bidder, if Mr. Singhal, who is the promoter, if he pays 100%, then he should take the asset 100%. Even if we have spent 1.5 years doing due diligence, spending huge amount of monies in
the effort of
a lot of effort
through this process.
Yeah. But if they are willing to pay 100%, then most welcome. Please take it.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you a question you're not going to like. Are you saying this because you principally believe in it, which is exactly what you've explained to me from the single point of view? Or are you saying this because you'd rather have the Ruyas come back in power of SR Steel than have ArcelorMittal, which is a global giant, enter the Indian business?
That is also, of course, the case.
Wow, okay, that's candor.
Yeah, sure. That is, to have we are the largest steel producer in India,
correct.
And to have the largest steel producer of the world sitting next to you, you don't want it, for sure. And if they want to come in, then they should come in and set up the plant from greenfield.
Oh, incredible candor. I'm waiting to ask you my political questions. But before I get into that, I think you're also looking at some very small capacities that, are either about to enter insolvency or will in due course. I remember one business that's been spoken of is Asian color-coated ispat. There are a few very, very tiny capacities.
Yeah.
Do you believe there are any large opportunities left in steel consolidation through the IBC process?
No.
And if not, then what is your inorganic route, if any? Is there any opportunity left in the next 2 to 5 years? Will it mostly be organic? And where does that leave you in your capacity race with Tata Steel?
So now all the steel companies, more or less, other than Bhushan Power and SR, are very tiny, and is not attracting our attention at all. So, and even the downstream like Asian or I don't know if there are any other, we are not very keen. We are not keenly looking at those assets because they don't make much sense. On the organic front, we are expanding quite aggressively. We are building as we speak. We are setting up. This fiscal, next fiscal, that is 1920, we'll complete our 6.5 million tons of brownfield expansion, both in Dolvi in Maharashtra and in Karnataka, 1.5 million in Karnataka and 5 million tons in Dolvi.
Right.
Excuse me.
No problem. Switch it off.
How are you doing? I'll see you later on. Yeah.
So that we will be doing this year, and then next year we plan to expand our Vijayanagar to 18 million tons with another 5 million tons. So by 2025, our plan is that organically we will take our capacity to 25 million tons, 40 million tons, excuse me, and hopefully inorganically another 8-10 million tons if things happen. Bhushan Power is 4 million tons and SR is 8-9 million tons. So if that happens,
how
then
are you still in the fray for SR?
Let's see.
Done and dusted, right?
I know, it's not done and dusted. As I said, it's not over till it's over.
Is there I don't mean to use it pejoratively, is there a backdoor deal between the Ruyas
No, there's no backdoor. It'll be whatever deal will happen, it'll be absolutely
upfront. What I mean to say is, like, are you hopeful that maybe you will have an entry through a partnership with the Ruyas or something like that?
There is a possibility.
We should have just done this interview on SR Steel and nothing else. Okay.
No, you won't get anything more than this because there is nothing more than this.
No, but it's interesting. So you've said that you think the Ruya should be given a fair chance. You've said that's on principle because they're willing to pay a full 100%.
Sure.
And that's an important distinction. They're not getting the asset at 1/3 or 1/4 the price through the IBC process. They're willing to pay full 100%. Therefore, you believe they should be given a fair chance.
That's it.
Part of that is also influenced by the fact that who would want the world's largest player sitting on the same table with them? And thirdly, you said about this asset that you think there could be an opportunity for you to partner with the Ruyas in this asset to be able to grow it and scale it.
Exactly.
And that will help you achieve your expansion plans as well over the next 10 years.
Very well said. You summarized it very nicely.
Just so my team has all the headlines back home and they don't miss any of it. Okay. Steel prices. What's the outlook for 2019 when it comes to both steel prices, locally, internationally, as well as I think we've seen some softening in iron ore as well to some extent. How are you seeing
in
that?
India.
Yeah, in India.
Yeah.
How are you seeing that play out? So what's your price and cost outlook for the year?
So steel prices, as you know, China is about 50% of the global steel capacity and global steel production. So there has been, and China is going through a little bit of a slowdown as we speak. So there has been a correction in the steel prices in China, and that has impacted the world. So India also gets impacted whatever happens in China. So therefore there has been some slowdown or some correction in steel prices in India. Iron ore prices globally are not softening. They have strengthened, in fact, in the last 2 months. but the Indian prices are a little bit have corrected in line with the steel prices.
Right.
So therefore but the demand side is remained robust in India. So that's not gotten affected.
Okay, so with steel prices, and I'm talking in the local context now, local steel prices and iron ore costs going down, you believe profit margins will remain maintained through the course of this year, or do you see conflicting pressures on that?
No, there is a pressure on the profit margins in the steel business. It won't be as robust as it was last year.
Yeah.
So because some correction has happened, and the coking coal prices have not come down, which is a major raw material. Iron ore prices have gone up in the middle and has come back to where it was about a year ago. So therefore the cost prices have not really come down.
Right. So there will be margin pressure this year across the industry, you're saying?
Across the industry.
Will it be substantial, or will it be between 50 to 100 basis points?
So yeah,
maybe
about
more than that.
Yeah, a couple of 100 points.
Okay, couple of 100 basis points. All right. But demand is not looking unaffected at this point in time.
No, demand is strong.
You know, one would have thought
robust.
typically election years are when governments pump money into infrastructure and smaller term road contracts and things like that. This government's had a good record with road building, etc. But this year it does seem that the fiscal room is fairly limited for any kind of big spend.
Yeah.
If there is any, it will be more towards the farm and agri sector, which at this point is crying for help.
Distress, yeah.
Yeah. So when you say demand outlook is looking good, what are you basing this on? Because real estate is looking soft. We haven't seen auto is soft. The NBFC financing issue seems to have sort of been felt by several different consumer-facing industries. So where is your demand optimism coming from?
No, so generally the infrastructure spend has been quite strong over the last 2-3 years, and that's continuing because the spend is happening as we speak. So that's consuming a lot of steel. The rural housing, the low-cost housing is where a lot of steel is getting consumed. Auto sector has slowed down from its growth, but it's continuing to. It's not into the negative territory.
No, it isn't. Of course,
So therefore they continue. Yeah, they continue to consume, and India hasn't added new capacity of steel. So therefore, from that point of view, we are seeing a good demand.
But are you seeing any big revival in because private capex has not jumped dramatically? There has been improvement. The data says.
Yeah.
But project revival hasn't happened at all.
No, I mean new projects are not really happening. But what we are seeing happening is the capacity is getting consumed. Whatever whatever investments and the capacities were created in the, let's say, UPA 2 regime has more or less been absorbed in the growth in the country.
Okay.
So now we are all feeling the need to expand our capacities to meet our going forward to meet the future demand of India.
How worried are you about the real estate softness besides the affordable housing space that everybody seems to be a lot more bullish on?
Yeah. I think the real estate in the big cities are getting impacted. But I mean, from a steel or cement standpoint, we don't really. That's not the area where too much steel or cement goes. It's more in the affordable housing and rural housing where majority of steel goes.
So what kind of volume growth would you expect this year? Let's say 2019 calendar year or FY20?
So last year the steel industry grew at about 8%. This year probably it would be 6%, 5 to 6%.
6% with some pressure on profit margins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's sort of clear. Talking about some of your other businesses, back to acquisition conversation. You're in the fray for the IL&FS renewable energy business?
No, not really. Not really. I mean, we are.
Not really. As
we
in
are studying.
Interested or not interested?
No, we are studying. So because we are all the time looking at.
It's a large
asset. We are looking at various renewable energy, but our major focus, because today we have only hydro as a renewable in the renewable field. We don't have any other solar or wind assets as we speak.
Right.
So therefore we are studying it, but I'm not sure whether we would be.
Why? Is it too big or is it not the right?
No, so the problem, so the problem which I don't know, but I believe that we cannot take any asset where the PPA that has been signed with the respective utility companies is at a very high price.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would want to be in the first quartile of the price in the PPA signing, because tomorrow you never know. You know, the regulators could come up that it's not in the public interest to, and they can renege on the contract.
And we've seen that happen.
And
in
we've
the
seen
past,
that happen.
right?
So therefore, we as a policy, JSW as a policy, would not like to enter into acquiring any asset where the tariffs are very high.
And that's the situation with some of these.
No, I have not
INFS
studied
renewable?
myself. I don't know the exact number. But you know, solar signed, let's say 5 years ago.
And prices have crashed so much, yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. So therefore.
So those are some of the areas you're more cautious on while you look at the assets. So you're not very big on this asset at this point.
That's why, you know, we have not made any mistakes in the power sector. Every company, including the big ones, the old ones, they have all made mistakes, right? Whether they have acquired assets in Indonesia based on which they signed the PPA, they finally got.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's I mean, they got relief from the Supreme Court now.
That's
finally.
True. Yeah.
But we have not made those mistakes because I'm very conservative in this approach. I mean, you have to be very careful about these things when you are dealing with the masses, and you know.
I understand, and this is again based on some media reports that got filed, that the business itself is looking at about an 8,000 crore valuation for that renewables business. I don't know if that is anywhere close to accurate. Some people put it more closer to 5,000.
I don't want to sound negative, but you know, that's why
you're
my
not
concern.
very interested.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's on the anvil this year for power? Is there anything substantial?
So we are looking at a few assets which have got attractive PPAs signed and which has got fuel linkages. So we are. I don't know the specifics, but or I don't want to tell you the specifics as we speak. But
large capacities?
Yeah, I mean fairly okay. 2,000, close to 2,000, 2,500 megawatts.
These are distressed assets, or
no? They are. I mean, a couple of them are distressed, and a couple of them are nicely
So these
operating.
are, because we have heard in the last, I think, 3 to 4 months, some effort being put in by lenders and some players in the power industry to resolve some of these power assets before they have to forcefully hit the IBC process.
That's right. So
you're
these are part of those.
on some of those.
Yeah.
But not the ones that have already been announced.
No.
So when do you hope to close these?
No, so we are in discussion. I don't know when will they be closed, but we are in discussion in quite advanced stages.
Okay, fair enough. Cement? You had put in a target of taking installed capacity to about 20 million tons by 2020. You're about at 14 now, or you'll close the year at 14?
12.5 now. I think we'll close 12.5.
Yeah.
And we are more or less on track to achieve 20 million tons by 2020, 2021.
Okay.
So these are all with the greenfield with fresh capacities.
Absolutely.
We are also looking at if there is a possibility to grow inorganically to acquire certain assets. I don't know the names because I don't handle it. It's my son who looks after it.
Yeah.
But that's one area where we are also looking at.
For cement. Yeah. You've said that before. I'm not surprised though. So 2019, from your various businesses' point of view, is the year to sort of bunker down and consolidate, right?
Yeah.
And ensure that you maintain profitability as much as you can across businesses.
Absolutely.
Good. Let me come to the political question now. You told the Times of India in an interview that you think that Prime Minister Modi or his party, the BJP, deserves a second term. Why is that?
No, because I believe in continuity. I believe that last 5 years or 4.5 years of this government has had a fairly good run. If you were to ask me to rank in 1 to 10, I would say it's 7 to Mr. Modi, because we haven't heard of any real scam, any problems. You know, in our country, if you don't have a scam, and you run the government cleanly, it's a big deal, because you know what we saw in UPA 2 was quite a, you know, it's not good for the nation that you have so many difficult problems. So I think government gave a good governance for the last 5 years, and to be fair, you know, now they have learned a few things which they should have, which now they're waiting to do probably in the second term. Such as strategic disinvestments, you know, which probably should have been done in the first term, but didn't happen. So hopefully that would happen. This government, to be fair, took a lot of initiatives in reforms, you know, such as GST, IBC, RERA, and so many other things, low-cost housing. set big goals for the country, talking on economic terms. They have done, I mean, the country has done extremely well. Prime Minister Modi has made India proud in the global arena. He's being counted as one of the global leaders, along with the presidency of China and stuff like that. So at least you need somebody to get up there and be counted.
Okay, allow me to counter some of your arguments. Not because I feel one way or the other, but I think if you read the body of analysis out there, for instance, Dr. Singh was well respected across the world. There are those who are critics of this government who believe that the transparency that should have been there in the Rafale deal has not come through as it should have. There are others who say that this government came in with the slogan of maximum governance, minimum government, and has not delivered on that at all. You speak of strategic public sector disinvestments as one leg of that program, but we've seen none of that take place. Instead, we saw NGC by HPCL and some other PSU by some other PSU. And in fact, we saw what was a poorly tended to sector get even more mangled. We've seen some below the line accounting, which is not unique to this government, but this government had an opportunity to clean some of those practices up. We've seen opacity in data. We've seen some very good schemes on the other hand. Jan Dhan has been great. Swachh Bharat has been at least the articulation of a vision, and those are cultural changes. They take longer to happen. Some efforts to be able to revive the power sector through there, not entirely successful, but also dependent on states. So both sides, in a sense, balance out. Are you wary that a coalition government might not deliver the kind of economic growth that you're hopeful for as a business leader, or are you politically right of center, more conservative person, and therefore you believe this is the government that should come back to power?
So, it's quite interesting, and you highlighted the various aspects of the this government quite well. Globally, coalition governments have also delivered. It's not that the coalition
in India
as well. Yeah,
we've seen that through the 90s.
Exactly,
and growth has been good. In fact,
in the first
minority governments have been credited with some of the most path-breaking reform in this country. Right?
Absolutely. So I don't see that as a big concern. I mean, of course, Dr. Manmohan Singh provided amazing leadership and did deliver a 10-year government to India, except for I would say, in the second term where things went a little awry.
Cannot deny the cloud of corruption that hung over that government, 1,000%.
Yeah, and we have short memories, so we tend to forget it.
That's also true.
But the fact that this government provided, there has been opacity in Rafale deal. That's what the press or the media is talking about, and I have not studied it in great depth. But so it seems. But otherwise, this government has had quite a spectacular track record for this. I mean, in hindsight, we can always find faults with anybody and everybody, so that's not a big issue. So I'm not very wary of coalition government. I mean,
that's not the reason why you're suggesting this government should get a second chance.
But I feel that having given 5 years of his time to run the country, probably the next 5 years, I feel that he must be really prepared to do some big reforms.
Okay, well, let's hope if that is the outcome of the elections, and that's exactly what plays out in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Mr. Jindal, thank you so much for your candor. You've always spoken your mind, and thanks very much for that.
Pleasure.
Thank you.